You know when you hear a piece of music and certain notes just click? They sound so right together. A chord feels complete and beautiful, while just mashing random keys sounds, well, like noise. Have you ever wondered why? Is that just something we're used to, or is there something much deeper, something almost mathematical going on?
Okay, let's get right into this because the answer is just fascinating. It turns out that the very heart of musical harmony, the stuff that our ears and brains find so pleasing, isn't just art. Nope, it's a story told in numbers, in simple ratios, and even a few cosmic glitches. So today, we're actually going to listen to what math sounds like.
So where do we even begin? Well, we've got to go way, way back, more than 2,000 years ago, to the ancient Greeks. And we're going to start with an instrument that's so simple it's almost primal, because it's right here, with just a single vibrating string, that the universe of music starts to give up its secrets.
This thing right here, this is a monochord. And yeah, it looks pretty basic, but think of it like a science experiment that you can actually play. By just changing the length of this one string, we can physically touch and hear the mathematical laws that are secretly running the whole show. It's our perfect little laboratory.
All right, so check this out. First, you pluck the whole open string. Let's call that our root note, a C. Now, what happens if you press down exactly in the middle, cutting the length in half, and pluck it again? The pitch shoots up by a perfect octave. It's still a C, just a higher version of it. But here's where the magic really happens. When you shorten the string to exactly 2/3 of its original length, you get a brand new note, a G. And it sounds unbelievably strong and stable next to our original C.
And right there, that's the whole secret. Our brains are hardwired to hear these simple, clean, whole number ratios as beautiful and correct. A 2-to-1 ratio gives us the octave, the most perfect, stable harmony possible. And that 3-to-2 ratio, that's the perfect fifth. These two simple relationships are basically the DNA for almost all of Western music.
So you can see where this is going, right? The next logical step seems pretty obvious. If that 3-to-2 perfect fifth sounds so great, why not just use it to build everything? You could create an entire musical scale just by stacking these perfect fifths. It's a beautiful, elegant idea. But as we're about to see, this perfect plan hits a snag. A tiny, but really profound mathematical glitch.
The idea is called Pythagorean tuning. And the goal is simple. You start on one note and you just keep jumping up by that perfect 3-to-2 ratio over and over again. You do that until you've created all 12 notes of the scale, and hopefully, you land right back where you started. It should be a perfect, closed circle.
So you can picture it, right? We start on a C. Boom. One jump up by a perfect fifth, and we land on G. From that G, we do it again, and now we're at D. From D to A to E. You just keep going. You do this 12 times, climbing this spiral of fifths that should be absolutely perfect.
I mean, it just makes sense. After 12 of these perfectly mathematical jumps, the circle should be complete. We should land exactly on another C, just 7 octaves higher than where we began. It's pure math, so it's got to close the loop perfectly, right?
Wrong. It doesn't. You actually overshoot the mark. After 12 perfect fifths, you land on a note that is excruciatingly close to a C, but it's just a tiny bit sharp. The ratio isn't a clean one, it's this number. This tiny, annoying, dissonant error is called the Pythagorean comma. And it's basically a fundamental bug in the mathematics of music.
And this isn't just, a rounding error. The paper we're looking at for this explainer puts it perfectly. The system is fundamentally not closed. That beautiful circle of fifths doesn't actually connect. It's a spiral that never quite gets back home, and it has created a massive puzzle for musicians for literally thousands of years.
So, what do you do with a system that's almost perfect except for one tiny, glaring flaw? Well, for centuries the answer has basically been to cheat. To find clever ways to make a compromise and just hide that pesky Pythagorean comma somewhere it won't be noticed as much.
So this leads to two main schools of thought. On one hand, you have the pure Pythagorean tuning. It keeps those gorgeous, perfect 3-to-2 fifths. The problem is, some of the other intervals sound really harsh, and you can't really change keys without it sounding awful. Then you have the modern solution, equal temperament. This is how your piano is tuned. It's a clever hack that solves the problem by making every single perfect fifth a tiny bit imperfect. It just spreads that error out evenly across all 12 notes.
So the crazy thing is, with equal temperament, literally nothing is perfectly in tune anymore except for the octave. But the trade-off is that nothing is horribly out of tune either. It's a brilliant, practical compromise, and it's the sound our modern ears have been trained to hear as totally normal. But What if there's another way to think about this?
Okay, so this is where the academic paper we're digging into today really shakes things up. It proposes a totally different way of thinking about this problem, a new method for building scales, from the ground up.
The question it asks is so simple, but it's really profound. Instead of starting with an answer, like, okay, we need 12 notes, and then trying to hammer the math into that box, what if we just followed the ratios? What if we let the numbers themselves just show us the way to the most stable, most logical scale structures?
So the paper lays out this refinement algorithm. And honestly, the process is beautiful. You start with any basic scale. Then you find its extreme tones. Those are the notes that are huddled up closest in pitch to your starting note. Each note has a position number or an index. All you do is add the position numbers of those two extreme tones together. And that sum, it tells you exactly how many notes should be in the next, more mathematically perfect scale.
And you won't believe what happens when you actually do this. You take a really common 5-note scale, the pentatonic scale. The algorithm looks at it, and its numbers point directly to a 7-note scale. Then you take that 7-note scale, the one we all know, and its numbers point right back to the 5-note scale. But here's the amazing part. Together, both of these ancient common scales naturally point to a 12-note scale as the next most logical step up. The 12-tone scale just emerges. It's not forced on us, it's what the math itself wants to be.
Okay, but if you thought that was cool, hold on, because this is where things go from interesting music theory to whoa, what is reality? This algorithm for making scales doesn't just work, it uncovers this deep, hidden link to one of the most fundamental ideas in all of number theory.
To get this, we have to talk about something that sounds totally random at first: Bezout's identity. Now stick with me. This is a huge idea in number theory, and it's about integers that don't share any factors, like 5 and 7. What it proves is that you can always find a way to combine multiples of these numbers to equal 1. It basically describes a kind of deep, structural harmony that already exists inside numbers themselves.
And this is the punchline, the absolute kicker. The authors of the paper proved that the relationship between the positions of those extreme tones we found in our musical scales follows the exact same mathematical structure as Bezout's identity. The hidden harmony between numbers is the same as the audible harmony we hear in music. They're two reflections of the same beautiful truth.
So what does all this mean? It means the music we find beautiful isn't just an accident or a cultural fluke. It's a direct consequence of the deep logical architecture of numbers themselves. That ancient puzzle of the Pythagorean comma, it's really just a little window into the stunning, interconnected world of pure mathematics. And you know, this whole journey isn't over. From that simple monochord thousands of years ago to these complex new algorithms, our quest to understand music keeps revealing these deeper, more elegant patterns that are just woven into the fabric of reality. It's a journey from sound to ratio to the very soul of numbers.
Which really just leaves you with one final thought. If the beauty of music is secretly governed by number theory, what other parts of our world, from the spiral of a seashell to the orbits of planets, are also just singing a song made of numbers, waiting for us to finally learn how to listen?